We will now look at the homework practice and support part of the Active Learning digital service, which supports students' independent learning outside of lesson time. It's where you will choose content to set to students as homework, and they will pick up and complete it. It is then all automatically marked by the system, and you can see how your students have performed. Before using the homework part of the service, we recommend that all teachers and students run the test, Will Active Learn run on my computer? This can also be found in the help section if you're already logged in. The test quickly identifies key software required to run the service most effectively and tells you if further downloads or updates may be required. If so, a red cross may appear next to certain software. If this happens, it may be that you can still run the service. However, if you do encounter problems, this test may help you identify the reason. The most common issue you may experience is pop-ups for the website being blocked, and this is normally flagged on your address bar. The test also checks for Flash Player, but this will not be required unless you are using some of our older GCSE content. It's worth telling students about this test. They should use it when they first access the service at home and on any new school computer. We also recommend using Google Chrome for this service. If you prefer to use another web browser, then make sure you've updated to the latest version. Now let's look at logging in to the homework part of the service. Remember that every student and teacher, once set up on the service, will have their own unique set of login details and accounts. We recommended that all teachers and students get set up on the service in advance of this training. If you haven't had a chance to do this yet, please contact our Digital Accounts Management team, whose details we will give later. This training will still be helpful. When getting set up, you will have had the chance to specify usernames and passwords for yourselves and your students, but if you didn't, default usernames and passwords will have been automatically generated. To ensure the security of school data, you are always in control of your own login details. If you're not sure of your login details, you should ask the initial purchaser of the service, for example your head of department, who will either have them or be able to log in and reset your password for you. We will look at how to reset passwords from within the platform shortly. On this page, both teachers and students can use the Forgot Your Password link. On this page, both students and teachers can also use Forgot Your Password. I'm going to log in as if I'm a teacher using a demo Pearson account. You'll see that for a teacher, the head bar is coloured green and has the Active Teach link on the right. There are 4 key areas across the top which we will explore: library, assignments, reports, and admin. You will also see help and message center icons here at the top on the right. Please keep an eye on the message center, as this is where we will inform you of any changes to the platform. Within the main library area, there are 3 shelves. At the top are the homework courses that your school has bought and to which you have access. You can change the products which appear here, for example, hide those which aren't for science, within the My Products page, which we'll look at shortly. The second shelf shows any active books that your school has bought. You may or may not have purchased these digital versions of the student books. They are separate from the Active Learn digital service purchase, but can be bought as an alternative or in addition to print versions of the books. The bottom shelf is space for any revision active books that you have purchased, and these would be accessible in the same way here. Now let's go into a homework course itself and look at the structure from which you can browse and complete exercises. We're going to look at the Key Stage 3 Exploring Science homework course. In the Exercises tab, you can see that the course is differentiated according to year group. Clicking into the Year 7 content, for example, this lists and allows you to access all the exercises. The content is then structured by units as listed down the left-hand side, 4 for each science. And each of these units is then divided into 5 topics, e.g. 7AA. Each topic contains a number of exercises. You can see that these are all differentiated along the top into developing, securing, and exceeding. Overall, this course structure for Exploring Science has been designed to give the best progression for learners and mirrors all the other components across the Active Learn digital service. This means that this homework practice and support content can be fully and easily integrated into planning and teaching. Remember that this course structure area of the platform will look identical for both teachers and students. Students can access and complete any of the exercises available. You'll see that any exercises that the user hasn't started will say Start. Those exercises that have been started but not completed have a pause button, and those that have been completed will show a percentage score with a colour. Now we're going to look at the important area where you can manage all staff and student details. By clicking on Admin, you can see that you're first taken to the My Account page to manage your own account details. You can edit your details and change your password from here. Moving down the menu on the left, My Products lists the different courses your school has purchased. You can hide those that you don't want to see on your initial library page by selecting the Do Not Show in Current Library button. We recommend that you only hide courses that you don't expect to use in the foreseeable future. Looking at the menu on the left again, register multiple students and register single students, along with the corresponding sections for teachers at the bottom, allow you to input users onto the service. This registration only ever needs to be done once for each person. We recommended that you got set up in advance of this training, so you will either already have used these fields yourself, or our digital accounts management team will have done this for you. If a new student or teacher joins the school, use Register Single Students or Register Single Teacher to get them onto the system. You'll see that you're asked to choose both a username and password for them, and it's a good idea to keep a record of this. Manage access to products allows you to give students access to different courses. On this page, you select the course at the top before having the option to filter students using one of the criteria shown below. You will see that you can then view all the students you have filtered for, just those with access to the course you have selected, or just those without access to the course. You can change these settings by selecting the relevant students and clicking either Grant Access or Remove Access. If a student is already using Active Learn, perhaps for a different subject in your school, you will simply need to grant them access to your new course here. It's possible to amend the details held on the service for any student or teacher using the areas Manage Student Details and Manage Teacher Details. If you click on this option and cannot see a screen like this, you will be given instructions on how to go through the Circle of Trust security process, which protects sensitive data. This is simply a case of selecting from a list a member of staff who is able to confirm that you should have access to student data. Once your colleague has confirmed that you can have access, this is automatically and immediately granted to you when you next log in. You will see in this area that by clicking on Details Edit, for any student or teacher, you can amend any details held for them, including giving them a new password. If you're not sure of any of your students' login details, you can export their details by clicking Select All and then Export Selected Users. This will list students' usernames. You can also bulk change passwords for a large number of students using the button at the top. You can reset all passwords for these students to a single password this way. For security reasons, however, we recommend that you then ask students to log in and change their passwords under My Account, something unique to them. If you need help with any administration, you can contact our digital support team, whose details you can find by clicking on the question mark or telephone icons at the top of the screen. You can also find further help documents and videos here. We are always looking to improve your experience, so please keep an eye on the envelope icon, as this is where we will communicate changes and improvements to you. Now let's look at groups. Groups have two key purposes. They allow you to create and set assignments and to view reports on student attainment. They are purely a way to manage your students. It might be worth spending some time as a department thinking about the types of groups you want to set up in order to effectively monitor your students. A student can belong to more than one group. We're going to look at how to set a group up and add students and teachers to it. Within Admin, select Manage Groups to show all groups to which you have access. To create a group, it's this button at the top. You need to choose a name for the group, and I suggest that you work out a standardized naming system you want to use for your department so that it's clear from the name which students the group contains. Once you have created a group, you need to add some students and teachers. You can do this by clicking Add Users to Group. Here you can search for new group members or use the filter to find them. Let's add some students to the group now. Search for and select the students or teachers you want to add and click Add Selected Users to Group. You can now see the students under current group members. Adding teachers to the group works in the same way. By clicking back, you'll see that these students now appear in the summary of the group. Once your group is created, you can add or remove students or move them to another group. You can also rename the group using the pencil icon at the top right. We're now going to look at setting assignments. The Assignments tab summarizes all the assignments that you have set. An assignment is a group of exercises that you set your students as homework. Use the button at the top to create a new assignment. You'll see that it's a fairly straightforward three-step process outlined at the top. I first need to specify the content for my assignment. This means, first of all, selecting the course. I'm going to select work from within the Key Stage 3 Exploring Science Year 7 content. We now need to choose the exact exercises we want to set as part of the assignment. These are the same exercises that can be viewed from the course structure page we looked at previously. As with all the homework, practice and support courses, the exercises here are closely mapped with the front of class teaching content and the student book. I'm going to set two exercises to give you an idea of some of the different content and features, rather than it necessarily being a realistic homework assignment. Once I've selected the relevant part of the course, I am able to see the exercises available, and clicking on the blue plus sign will then add them to my assignments on the right. I can set exercises from within more than one part of the course by changing my selection from the drop-down menu. You'll see that you can preview each exercise just to double check that it's appropriate. You can also add specific instructions for each individual exercise within the assignment if you wish. You'll see the Save and Save As functions, which allow you to save an assignment you have constructed to assign to students at a later date. Let's proceed with assigning it now by clicking Assign to Students. I then need to select the group of students to assign it to. From this group, I can select any number of students to assign work to. You don't have to set work to them all. The list of students to whom you have assigned the work will be easily visible later on. You will need to choose an assignment name, and I suggest you call it something which will tell you in future which exercises it contains so that you can easily reuse it. I'm going to give it a sample name. You also need to select the start date and due date. These two dates are useful tools, as students will not be alerted to the existence of the assignment until the start date. This means that you can schedule work ahead of time. Assignments are also automatically submitted to you once the due date is reached. Once set, you can easily change the hand-in date or delete an assignment. You can add a comment to your students to let them know why you've set this work before clicking Set Assignment Now. When students next log into their own accounts, they will see that they have been set homework, and we'll look at this in a minute. So now that I've set the assignment, I will be able to on the Open tab in the Assignments area in an absolutely live way. As soon as a student starts completing it, I will know and can see how students are doing at any point. I will also be able to see when they have completed it all. Now let's see the monitoring power of the Homework Practice Support Service in action by firstly pretending to be a student and completing the assignment, and then logging back in as a teacher and seeing how we can review student performance. So I'm now going to log in as a student. You can see that the student account looks a little different from a teacher account in that it's blue across the top and has different menu options. As a student, I can see how many assignments I have by the little number next to the assignments menu at the top. It's also flagged to me in my messages section. If I click on the assignments area, the assignments will be shown in the Open tab. I can clearly see the due date, as well as whether I've started it or not. To start the assignment, I simply click Start. Let's look at the first exercise by clicking Start here. You can see that in an exercise there are instructions across the top. At the bottom, you can see that there are 3 parts to this exercise. You can also see the number of attempts available to complete each part, 3 in this case. I've not used any of my attempts yet, so I'm going to have a go at trying to join the boxes correctly using the linking lines. I can enlarge the diagram if I wish. I've got it mostly wrong, and I can see this from the red crosses and also the immediate feedback I get at the bottom of the page. This gives me some support and prompts me to have another go. Also, after this attempt, it's clear that I have 2 attempts left. Since I've not done too well on my first attempt, I have a number of options to support me. I can use the hints, indicated by the grey eye icons, and these give me more information about each organ. If I use these hints, my teacher will be able to see that I have done so. I can also use the learning aids available at the top right here. This allows you to open relevant pages from the active book for some guidance. I'm now going to use up all my attempts on the question. As I still haven't got the answer right, in this case, I can see the correct answers for reference by clicking on Show Answers, and this will be clearly visible to my teacher. Moving on to the second activity, similar to the first, but ask students to drag and drop tiles. If I get stuck on this activity, there are 2 learning aids to help me, both an active book spread and PowerPoint to download. The final activity is multiple choice, and again there are optional hints and a learning aid. Once I've had at least one attempt at all the activities in an exercise, I can click on the results page and see a summary of how I've done. You can see that my score is color-coded, and we refer to this as a RAG score, standing for red, amber, green, or gold. Red means that I've achieved 0 to 34%. Amber is between 35 and 70%. Green is 71 to 100%. And gold is a perfect 100% score without using any learning aids or hints. This color coding system is used throughout homework practice support content to track achievements. At the top right, I have the chance to feed back to my teacher on how I felt about the exercise. I'm going to submit my score and move on to the other exercise to show you an extended writing exercise type. This is an example of an exercise that gives students practice in answering an extended writing question that covers the working scientifically requirement of the course. The exercise is structured into 4 parts as listed along the bottom: question, source, write, and mark. The first part encourages students to analyse the question, and my first task is to highlight the command words. I can click on the grey hints or learning aids if I need more support. I can undo my highlighting by clicking again on a piece of highlighted text or by using the eraser at the bottom. As before, when I check my answers, I get an overall piece of feedback and feedback on individual pieces of text I have highlighted to help me understand where I went wrong. This type of feedback is available where I see an orange exclamation mark. Again, I have 3 attempts at this part of the exercise. I can now move on to the next part of the exercise, the Source tab. This has the functionality but a different purpose, asking the student to analyse the text itself on which they will write their response. Highlighting will help them prepare for their piece of writing. Before I move on to writing a response, I have a chance to plan it. This plan comes with some points to cover, but I can edit or reorder these notes as well as add my own. When I then move on to write my response, these notes are with me. You can see that there are also tips available on the pull-out left. I can print my response, but remember that responses are all saved and are always visible to both students and teachers. Finally, the Mark tab. This comes in 2 parts and prompts me to assess my own work against a number of criteria. Firstly, I can check criteria if they're true. Secondly, I can use the highlighter to specify whereabouts in my response I've met a second set of criteria. Finally, I can review my results on the results screen. The first two parts of the exercise are auto-marked. The RAG for the extended writing part of the exercise will be determined by my own self-marking. As always, a teacher will be able to see and review this. I'm going to feed back to my teacher on how I felt about this exercise. Now let's look at the assignment page for the students. As a student, once I've had a go at any part of an assignment, the summary of my attempts is clearly visible, with the total score for each exercise, learning aids used, and time taken. I then have an opportunity to feed back to my teacher on each exercise using the comment box. I can also review my answers themselves in detail by clicking Review Answers. Crucially, I am able to work on exercises and save my progress up until the due date, which is clearly listed. On this date, the assignment is automatically submitted to my teacher. I can, at any point, leave my feedback on the assignment as a whole. I then click Save and Exit, and you'll see that the retry or resume functionality is still available until the due date is reached. I'm now going to log back in as a teacher and look at how my students are doing on this assignment. When I click on the assignment under the Assignments area, you'll see that it comes up with an assignment progress report. You can see the list of students and the status of their assignments. By clicking on Review Results, you can see a breakdown very similar to the student's assignment screen that we just looked at. Remember that as a teacher, you can also review answers by clicking at the top right of an exercise. You get taken directly to the results page, which gives you marks and the number of attempts used. From here, you can click on the name. You get taken directly to the results page, which gives you marks and number of attempts used. From here, you can click on the name of each part of the exercise to see a student's exact responses, get a really good idea of where they may have gone wrong. Going back to the review results screen, you can leave feedback as a teacher on any part of the assignment and/or the assignment overall here on the left. You can also reward students for extra effort, and they'll see this when they next log in. You can also generate a feedback report, which exports a CSV file. This is useful for tracking student-teacher communication on progress. You can then send your feedback to the student and exit. If, after looking at the assignment progress report, you want to change the due date of the assignment to give students more time, you can do so by selecting which students you'd like to grant an extension to. Then click on the Grant Extension button at the top. Once implemented, the relevant students will be notified that the due date has changed via their message center, the envelope icon, when they next log in. Now we're going to look in more depth at what is the most powerful aspect of the Homework Practice and Support Service, the reporting. As we have seen, all of the exercises in the service are auto-marked, so this removes the need for you as a teacher to mark work. Instead, the reports allow you to get an instant detailed insight into where an entire group or individual student may need further support. There are currently 3 types of reports available via the Reports tab. Let's look at the assignment progress report for the assignment we just completed as a student by first selecting the relevant group and then the assignment. This report summarizes student achievement on a particular individual assignment as seen previously. This is live in real time. As you can see, student 2 didn't get high scores, and therefore we might be concerned about this student's understanding and motivation. Going back to the Reports menu, I'm going to show you the Student Assignment report next. This report helps you to check an individual student's achievements over a number of past assignments. It allows you to see a summary of all the assignments a single student has been set, whether they have handed them in, and how they performed on them. Let's look at one of these now. This shows you all the assignments set to this student, and I can narrow this down by product on the right. Scrolling down, you can see all the individual assignments with their status and achievement given. Just as for the individual assignment progress report we looked at before, you can see the time taken by the student for each assignment. Also, as before, you can review all the responses the student gave by clicking on Review Results. From here, you can also review individual answers by clicking on Review Answers. You can see at a glance this student's confidence in their progression across assignments using the smiley sad face functionality. From this student assignment report page, you can also export a summary of the feedback between teacher and student for each individual assignment, or export a summary for all of the student's assignments, as shown here but in CSV format. The Export button. Now let's look at the progress report. It shows the progress a group of students has made across all the work they have done. That's all assignments as well as any work they have attempted by themselves. You can think of this report as a little bit like a mark book in order to understand student progress across the course as a whole. Let's look at an Exploring Science group. Scrolling down the page, you can look at the performance of the students within the group at a glance. We always need to bear in mind that these scores should be taken in the context of the percentage of the course covered by students so far. The report obviously becomes more useful and informative the more exercises students complete or the more assignments are set to them. You'll see on the far right that there is a note detailing how many assignments each student has completed out of those set to them. You can export this report for your records. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention to where you can find further support with homework practice and support by clicking on the question mark at the top right. If you can't find what you need in the documentation or videos, you can call our digital support team. We recommend that you're at the computer you use to access the homework practice and support service when you call, wherever possible. Digital support often find it helpful to have a screenshot of the issue. If you have any feedback on the training, please do contact the training team at the email address shown here. I hope you found the training useful. Thank you again for attending.